Loud. All right, we're back, everyone. All right, so my mom's going to be continuing the reading for us in Isaiah chapter 6 to 9.
Okay. And this happened in the year when Uzziah the king died. I saw Yahuwah seated on a high and raised throne, and the building was full of his, and seraphim stood around him. Each one had wings, and with two they were covering their face. They were covering their feet, they were flying. And one cried aloud to the other, and they were saying, Set apart, set apart, set apart is Yahuwah of hosts. The whole land is full of his esteem. Hell was lifted because of the sound that they were shouting, filled with smoke. And I said, Oh, I am wretched because I am fierce, for I live in the middle of a people having impure lips, a person and having impure lips, and I have seen the king hosts with my eyes. And one of the seraphim was sent to me, and in its hand it was holding a coal that it took with a holder from the altar. And it touched my mouth and said, Look, touch your lips, and will take away your transgressions, purge away your sins. And I heard the voice of Yahuwah saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go to this people? And I said, Look, I am here, send me. And he said, Go and say to this people, You will hear by hearing and not understand, and although looking, you will look and not see. The heart of this people has been thickened, and they have heard heavily ears, and they close their eyes in case they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and turn, and I will heal them. And I said, Until when, Yahuwah? And until cities are desolated to the point of not being inhabited, and houses to the point of their people, and the land will be left deserted. After will distance the people, and those left behind will increase. And still the tenth part is on it, and again it will become plunder, like and like when it falls from its case. Okay, chapter 7. When Ahaz, son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, was king of Judah, and of Aram, Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel.
Oh, can you guys mute somebody, please? There's really bad background noise.
All right, I see. Okay, my bad about that. I didn't notice that.
I have more.
Hold on. All right, there it is. Go ahead, Mom.
Okay, verse 2. Now the house of David was told, Aram has allied itself with Ephraim, so the hearts of Ahaz and his people were shaken, as the trees of the forest are shaken by the wind. Then Yahuwah said to Isaiah, Go out, you and your son, Shear Jashub, to meet Ahaz at the end of the aqueduct of the upper pool on the road to Washerman's field. Say to him, Be careful, keep calm, and don't be afraid. Do not lose heart because of these two smoldering stubs of firewood, because of the fierce anger of Rezin and Aram and the son of Remaliah. Aram, Ephraim, and Remaliah's son have plotted your ruin, saying, Let us invade Judah, let us tear it apart and divide it amongst ourselves, and make the son of Tabeel king over it. Yet this is what the sovereign Yahuwah says. It will not take place. It will not happen. For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is only Rezin. Within 65 years, Ephraim will be too shattered to be a people. The head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is only Ramaliah's son. If you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all. Again, Yahuwah spoke to Ahaz, ask Yahuwah your Elohim for a sign, whether in the deepest depths or in the highest heights. But Ahaz said, I will not ask. I will not put Yahuwah to the test. Then Isaiah said, hear now, you house of David. Is it not enough to try the patience of men? Will you try the patience of my Elohim also? Therefore, Yahuwah himself will give you a sign. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. He will eat curds and honey when he knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right. But before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. Yahuwah will bring on you and on your people and on the house of your father a time unlike any since Ephraim broke away from Judah. He will bring the king of Assyria. In that day, Yahuwah will whistle for flies from the distant streams of Egypt and for bees from the land of Assyria. They will all come and settle in the steep ravines and in the crevices in the rocks, on all the thorn bushes and at all the water holes. In that day, Yahuwah will use a razor hired from beyond the river, the king of Assyria, to shave your head and the hair of your legs, and to take off your beards also. In that day, a man will keep alive a young cow and 2 goats, and because of the abundance of the milk they give, he will have curds to eat. All who remained in the land will eat curds and honey. In that day, in every place where there were 1,000 vines worth 1,000 silver shekels, there will be only brickers and thorns. Men will go there with bow and arrow, for the land will be covered with briars and thorns. As for all the hills once cultivated by the hoe, will no longer go there for fear of the briars and thorns. They will become places where cattle are turned loose and where sheep run. Chapter 8. Yahuwah said to me, take a large scroll and write on it with an ordinary pen, Meir, Shalai, Hashbaz, and I will call in Uriah the priest and Zechariah, son of Jeberechiah, as reliable witnesses for me. Then I went to the prophetess, and she conceived and gave birth to a son. And Yahuwah said to me, name him Ma'ar Shalal Hashbaz. Before the boy knows how to say, my father or my mother, the wealth of Damascus and the plunder of Samaria will be carried off by the king of Assyria. Yahuwah spoke to me again. Because this people has rejected the gently flowing waters of Shiloh and rejoices over Rezin and the son of Remaliah, therefore Yahuwah is about to bring against them the mighty flood waters of the river. The king of Assyria with all his pomp, it will overflow all its channels, run over all its banks, and sweep on into Judah, swirling over it, passing through it and reaching up to the neck. Its outspread wings will cover the breadth of your land, O Emmanuel. Raise the war cry, you nations, and be shattered. Listen, all you distant lands. Prepare for battle and be shattered. Prepare for battle and be shattered. Devise your strategy, but it will be thwarted. Propose your plan, but it will not stand, for Yahuwah is with us. Yahuwah spoke to me with his strong hand upon me, warning me not to follow the way of this people, he said. Do not call conspiracy everything that these people call conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread it. Yahuwah Almighty is the one you are to regard as set apart. He is the one you are to fear. He is the one you are to dread, and he will be a sanctuary. But for both houses of Israel, he will be a stone that causes men to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. And for the people of Jerusalem, he will be a trap and a snare. Many of them will stumble, they will fall and be broken. They will be snared and captured. Bind up the testimony and seal up the law among my disciples. I will wait for Yahuwah, who is hiding his face from the house of Jacob. I will put my trust in him. Here I am. Here am I. Here am I, and the children of Yahuwah has given me. We are signs and symbols in Israel from Yahuwah Almighty, who dwells on Mount Zion. When men tell you to consult mediums, spiritists, who whisper and mutter, should not a people inquire of their Elohim? Why consult the dead on behalf of the living? To the law and to the testimony. If they do not speak according to this word, they have no light of dawn. Distressed and hungry, they will roam through the land. When they are famished, they will become enraged, and looking upward will curse their king and their Elohim. Then they will look toward the earth and see only distress and darkness and fearful gloom, and they will be thrust into utter darkness. Chapter 9. Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who were in distress. In the past, he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, but in the future he will honor Galilee of the Gentiles by the way of the sea along the Jordan. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you, as people rejoice at the harvest, as men rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor. Every warrior's boot used in battle, and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty Elohim, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of Yahuwah Almighty will accomplish this. Yahuwah has sent a message against Jacob. It will fall on Israel. All the people will know it. Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, who say with pride and arrogance of heart, the bricks have fallen down, but we will rebuild the dressed stone. The fig trees have been felled, but we will replace. But Yahuwah has strengthened Rezin's foes against them and has spurred their enemies on. Arameans from the east and Philistines from the west have devoured Israel with open mouth. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. But the people have not returned to him who struck them, nor have they sought Yahuwah Almighty. So Yahuwah will cut off from Israel both head and tail, both palm branch and reed in a single day. The elders and prominent men are the head. The prophets who teach lies are the tail. Those who guide his people mislead them, and those who are guided are led astray. Therefore, Yahuwah will take no pleasure in the young men, nor will he pity the fatherless and widows. For everyone is ungodly and wicked. Every mouth speaks vileness. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. Surely wickedness burns like a fire. It consumes briars and thorns. It sets the forest thickets ablaze, so that it rolls upward in a column of smoke. By the wrath of Yahuwah Almighty, the land will be scorched, and the people will be fuel for the fire. No one will spare his brother. On the right they will devour, but still be hungry. On the left they will eat, but not be satisfied. Each will feed on the flesh of his own offspring. Manasseh will feed on Ephraim, and Ephraim on Manasseh. Together they will turn against Judah. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised.
So there's a lot to cover in these chapters, especially I couldn't believe how many parallels I saw to the New Testament here from the Targum of Isaiah here. A lot of interesting terms being used here. Number one, instead of seraph, they paraphrase seraphim as ministers. Now, unless you're familiar with Paul's letters, you're not going to understand where this comes from, the idea that angels are quote unquote ministers. Okay. If you look at the book of Hebrews, it seems like Paul might have been familiar with the Targum of Isaiah because he's kind of pulling with the same terminology. He's calling them ministers for the ministering spirits. Okay, in Hebrews chapter 1.
Yeah.
So I believe Paul is actually directly referencing a older version of the book of Isaiah than we have today, especially at the minimum older than the Masoretic text. This is how the Targum of Isaiah reads in Isaiah 6 verse 2. Set apart ministers on high stood before him. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, that it should not see, and with twain he covered his body, that it should not be seen, and with twain he was ministering. And the one cried out to another, and they were saying, set apart in the highest and exalted heavens is the house of his splendor. Set apart upon the earth is the work of his strength. Set apart forever, world without end, is Yahuwah of armies. The whole earth is filled or full of the brightness of his splendor. Now, again, that's another concept that we see there, the brightness of his splendor. So there's 2 cross references from Hebrews chapter 1 I want to go to. First, I want to go to ministering spirits. How do we know that this is a concept that Paul is pulling from? Because in Hebrews 1:13, okay, he's saying here, he's referring to angels here. And he's saying, or actually, let me see here. Yeah, it's actually 1:14. I don't know why they gave a reference of 13. Okay. See here, I don't like.
Only from Psalms too, also.
All of them are spirits on a divine mission. I hate how they got to change. Why do they change the wording? Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation? Notice how it says shall be heirs. Okay, so right there, Paul seems to be quoting from an earlier version of Isaiah that would consider seraphim ministers, celestial ministers. Okay, and then if we go to, the brightness of his esteem, which Isaiah 6:3 talks about the brightness of his esteem filled the whole earth. So let's see here. So the brightness. Let's see here. I just had it up from before. Messiah
Lynn, tell me.
is a lintel. Lintel. You know, lintel of a door. You know what a lintel is?
What it is.
Doorpost. Lintel. It's
A latch, like a
no, a doorpost, Mom. That's
Oh,
what
alright.
that's what lintel is.
Okay.
It's the same
Never heard
thing.
of it, Doug.
Yeah, it's in the Torah. It's in Deuteronomy, I think, what is it, 6? It talks about ascribe them to your doorposts, to your lintels of your
I
gates.
just never saw the word lintel.
Yeah, it's an old British word in the King James. You'll see lintel being used a lot. Okay, so let me see here. So the brightness of his esteem reminded me of Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3. From Isaiah 6:3 of the Targum reminded me of let's see the of Hebrews 1:3, which says, a decent translation here, who being the brightness of, wow, the King James is almost word for word with the Aramaic version of Isaiah, who being the brightness of his esteem and the express image of his person, upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself, that should be an important phrase there, especially for us that believe in the oneness there, by himself purged our sins, sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high. So that is a cross-reference to Isaiah 6:3 in the Targum of Isaiah that says that the let's see, it says here, set apart in the highest exalted heavens is the house of his splendor, esteem upon the earth, or set apart upon the earth is the work of his might, set apart forever, world without end. Yahuwah of armies, the whole earth is filled with the brightness of his esteem. So just thought I would mention that. Also, set apart in the highest. The phrase in the highest is also used in the New Testament twice. It talks about esteem in the highest to the Father. Okay, Mark chapter 11, verse 10, Luke chapter 2, verse 14. And so again, the Targum of Isaiah in verse 6 of that chapter talks, again, references seraphim, paraphrases seraphim as ministers. Okay. Verse 7 in the Targum, interestingly enough, says the words that he puts in Isaiah's mouth is his prophecies. It says here, and he placed it in my mouth and said, behold, I have put the words of my prophecies in your mouth, and your iniquities are put away. Your sins are expiated, which expiated is an old term for basically, forgiven, atoned for. Okay. Verse 8 I thought was interesting in the Targum of Isaiah. It says, and I heard the voice of the word of Yahuwah, which said, whom shall I send to prophesy? And who will go to teach? Then I said, here I am, send me. So a lot of interesting stuff. I see a lot of Brit Hadashah theology here in the Targum of Isaiah here. Very interesting. Okay, so verse 10, obviously, I wanted to make a note of verse 10 here because Yahusha quotes from here in the Brit Hadashah. Make the heart of this people fat, make their ears heavy, darken their eyes, lest they would see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and repent, and it shall be forgiven them. And I'm just going to check real quick. Some translations actually give footnotes where you can find this in the New Testament, depending on your translation. I think the TS 2009 actually doesn't. Let's see, Isaiah 6:10. Yeah, the TS 2009 gives footnotes the majority of the time. All right, so let's see here. No, they don't do it, interestingly enough. So if someone can find that New Testament parallel there where Yahusha's quoting from Isaiah 6:10, I would appreciate it. I'm just trying to go through these parallels as quickly as possible here because I got a lot more. Isaiah 7:11-12. I thought it was interesting because we see this current thread of we see earlier in Numbers about this wicked congregation, and then this king here says, he's actually not going to ask Yahuwah for a sign, because to him that would be tempting Yahuwah. He actually says, okay, so Isaiah 7, 11, 12 says, ask thee a sign from before the presence of Yahuwah, that a miracle for you upon the earth, or that a sign may be shown you in heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt Yahuwah. Now, this concept we can see in the Brit Hadashah, where Yahusha says, wicked generation, you always seek a sign, so on and so forth. So that's a concept that Yahusha pulls from even. Okay, so let's see here. Self-explanatory.
Hebrews.
Yeah, it's what for
That cross-reference.
go ahead, Mom. What does it say?
I think it says 10 Hebrews, you will be ever hearing but never understanding.
Yeah, I know it's in the store accounts too. It's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Okay,
Matthew 13, verse 15.
Okay.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you. I knew it was there somewhere, because Yahusha himself natively,
Mhm.
when he was in his earthly ministry, quoted from Isaiah there. Yeah. And Isaiah 7:14, another important cross reference here, okay, about a virgin, not young woman, virgin shall conceive. Even the Targum of Isaiah, which is older than the Masoretic, also along with the Septuagint, gives a second witness. It's virgin, not young woman. Okay. Right. So just wanted to make that clear. I know there's been a lot of conspiracy theories out there that the virgin birth is not biblical, but I can assure you it is biblical. It's right there in Isaiah 7. And I just want to put to rest any false assertions that even well-meaning people like the ISR people want to put out there. There is a Greek word for virgin. It's parthenos. It's right there in the text. So just want to put it out there that be careful. Always check the sources when you got you got information being given, footnotes being given. Always check to see if they have sources to back up what they're putting out there. All right, moving on anyway. Okay, so verse 15. I found it interesting. Actually, I wanted to focus on verse 16 here, because it says, this is definitely talking about Yahusha, obviously. It says, but before the child shall know to reject evil and to choose Tob, the land shall be laid desolate, on account of which you are in a strait, because of these two kings. Now, it might not be that clear in the Targum, but if you look at the Septuagint, it's a little bit more distinctive that it's talking about a specific child it's referring to, this prophecy. It's referring to Yahusha as a child, coming as a child, taking on flesh. And that before he would, usually a child knows to choose good, he chooses good, basically. So it says in 7:16 of the Septuagint, it says, for behold, the child shall know Tob or evil. He refuses evil to choose the Tob, and the land shall be forsaken, which you are afraid of because of the two kings. So basically, Yahuwah is giving Isaiah this prophecy, saying, listen, this is the Messiah. This is the Messiah. As a child, he will know right from wrong before he should know right from wrong. That's basically what it's saying. There's something supernatural about this child. Okay. I don't think I have anything else for chapter 7. Let's see. Witnesses, curses. Let's see. Uriah, Zechariah. Okay. Let's see here. This I thought was interesting. Chapter 8, verse 5 of the Targum says, and the word of Yahuwah spake again to me, saying. So again, it's like a lot more focusing on Yahusha in the Targum here. Okay, so the word of Yahuwah spake to me, saying, and then it talks about, for as much as his people refuse the kingdom of the house of David. So then there seems to be this rivalry happening again with, even at this point, there's still this rivalry with the northern house and southern house fighting one another. Let's see. Okay. Verse 12, I like a lot better than the Masoretic. Masoretic used to confuse me. I don't know if it's the translator issue, but it just doesn't make sense. Say conspiracy of conspiracy. I don't know. Just the wording doesn't make sense to me. The Targum says, say ye not a rebellion to all that this people shall say a rebellion. Neither fear ye their fear or their type of fear. And concerning their strength, say ye not strength. So this makes a little bit more sense to me the way the Targum words it. It's talking about sin, rebellion. It's not talking about like conspiracy. I see some people interpreting that like, oh, see, we shouldn't, get into conspiracy theories and all that. The way that could be read. Let's see here. Verse 15 I found interesting. It says, his word shall be amongst you for revenge, for a stone of stumbling. So it's actually calling the word of Yahuwah that stone of stumbling. And for the rock of defense to both of the houses of the princes of Yashar for destruction and for a snare, because they contend against those of house of Yehuda who are dwelling in Jerusalem or Jerusalem. So it's actually saying the word of Yahuwah is that stumbling stone. That's literally what it's saying there. Which we know to be Yahusha, obviously. So let's see here. I prayed for Yahuwah. He would take away his splendor from the house of Jacob. Okay. Let me just see here. I found it interesting in verse 21 of this chapter. Instead of it saying the name of his king, it says Molech. I find it interesting. So that Hebrew phrase like Malak, technically it's kind of related. Like basically what I've heard is that Molech is just the name Molech comes from the Hebrew word Malak for king. So that's how he got, that's why sometimes you'll see a paraphrase of Malak as Molech. Which in context, this would make sense. Molech is their king because they're apostate. So this would actually make sense in context. Of the name of his Molech and his idolatry, he shall look upwards to seek salvation. That kind of makes sense in the context. It's talking about Yashar in their apostasy and their idolatry. Let's see here. Now, on to chapter 9. Let's see here. What really I took away from was the oneness here in Isaiah 9:6. It says, the prophet said to the house of David, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and he has taken the law upon himself, Matthew chapter 5, okay, to keep it. His name is called from eternity, Micah 5:2. Wonderful, the mighty Elohim, which, by the way, when Yahusha pre-incarnate, there's a verse in the Septuagint that links up with this where I forget who he's talking to. I think we read it the other day. It was in Judges, where I think he spoke to, I'm trying to remember exactly. It was either in Judges or First Samuel, where it says, First Samuel, where it says, why do you ask my name, for it is wonderful. The Septuagint actually has a verse like that referring to the angel of Yahuwah saying, my name is wonderful. So it says, his name is called from eternity, wonderful, the mighty Elohim, who lives to eternity. I was dead, but now live forever. Okay. The Messiah, whose peace shall be great upon us in his days. So what's interesting is Judaism today, the reason they don't accept Yahusha, their reasoning is that he didn't bring peace in the day of their ancestors, like when Yahusha first came. But according to the Targum here, it's saying in his days he will bring peace. Not in the days of 1st century AD. What's his days? The millennium. So that's why Yahusha said to the Pharisees and them, you error not knowing the scriptures.
Yeah.
You don't know the prophecies. You don't understand the prophecies. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. The Targum links up with that concept that exposes the false interpretation of the messianic prophecies that Judaism has today. The greatness of those who do the law shall be magnified, and those that preserve peace. There shall be no end to the throne of David and of his kingdom, to establish it and to build it in right ruling and righteousness from hereforth even forever. This is all still part of verse 7 here. By the word of Yahuwah of armies shall this be done. So that whole verse right there, it ends with the word of Yahuwah is going to do this. So very interesting. And I think that's all the cross references, or the bullet points I had for the chapters of Isaiah my mom read that I can really pull from and really stood out to me. Obviously, there's a lot of important stuff too. There's judgment of the wicked mentioned in the end of chapter 9 and all that. So there's a lot of important stuff, but I mainly wanted to touch on the messianic stuff on those chapters, and certain theology Paul seems to be pulling from the Targum of Isaiah, it seems like, or earlier Tanakh that we don't have in our modern Bibles. So anyway, I think we're going to continue on here. I think Brother Dennis, he has not read yet, and I think Brother Dennis will be doing the second part of our prophets portion. So we're going to be moving on here to, let's see here, we got the Ezra portion, right?
Mhm.
So let's see, Brother Dennis, if you can, please read Ezra chapters 1 to 5 for us, if you can. Brother Dennis, you there?
I had to go to the bathroom.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay, brother. It's all told, man. It's all right. So if you could, I was wondering if you could read the Ezra portion for us, chapters 1 to 5.
Okay, yeah, give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. No problem, bro. No problem. No problem. Okay.
Did you need a reader for anything else?
Yes, sis. Let me see here. While Dennis is getting ready here, you could actually read after the Ezra portion. We'll probably do a new recording, but once we get to it, you could read 1 Corinthians 15 to 16.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sis, for volunteering. I appreciate it. All right. Let me get going here. Let's get the screen going. All right.
Let's see, Ezra 1 through 5.
Yep.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
All right. And in the first year of Koresh, sovereign of Persia, that the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Yirmiah might be accomplished, Yahuwah stirred up the spirit of Koresh, sovereign of Persia, to proclaim throughout all his reign, and also in writing, saying, Thus said Koresh, sovereign of Persia, Yahuwah Elohim of the Shemaim, has given me all the reins of the earth, and he has commanded me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Yehuda, who is among you of all his people. His Elohim be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Yehuda, and build the house of Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael. He is Elohim, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left from all the places where he sojourns, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold, with tobes, livestock, besides the voluntary offerings for the house of Yahuwah, which is in Jerusalem. And the heads of the fathers' houses of Yehuda and Benjamin, and the priests, Cohens, and the Levites, with all those whose spirits Elohim has stirred, rose up to go up and build the house of Yahuwah, which is in Jerusalem. And all those round about them strengthened their hands with objects of silver and gold, with tobes and livestock, and with valuables, besides all that was voluntarily offered. And sovereign Koresh brought out the utensils of the house of Yahuwah, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem, and put in the house of his mighty ones. And Koresh, sovereign of Persia, brought them out by the hand of Mithredath, the treasurer, and counted them out to Sheshbazzar, the leader of Yehuda. And this was their number: 30 gold dishes, 1,000 silver dishes, 29 knives, 30 gold basins, next 410 silver basins, 1,000 other utensils. All the utensils of gold and silver were 5,400. Sheshbazzar took all of them with the exiles who were brought from Babel to Jerusalem. Chapter 2. And those are the sons of the province who came back from the captivity of the exiles, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of Babel, had exiled to Babel, and who returned to Jerusalem and Yehuda, each to his own city, who came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Eliah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigwai, Rehem, Baana, the number of the men of the people of Yisrael, sons of Parosh, 2,172, sons of Shephatiah, 372, sons of Era, 775, sons of Pahath Moab, of the sons of Yeshua and Joab, 2,812, sons of Elam, 1,254, sons of Zetu, 945, sons of Zakai, 760, sons of Bani, 642, sons of Bebai, 623, sons of Azgad, 1,222, sons of Adonikim, 666, sons of Bigwai, 2,056, sons of Adin, 454, sons of Ater, of Hezkadiah, 98, sons of Betzai, 323, sons of Jorah, 112, sons of Hashum, 223, sons of Gebar, 95, sons of Beth-lehem, 123, men of Netophah, 56, men of Anathoth, 128, sons of Asmaweth, 42, sons of Kiriath, Aram, Haftarah, and Beereth, 743. Sons of Ramah and Geba, 621. Men of Michmas, 122. Men of Beth-el and Ai, 223. Sons of Nebo, 52. Sons of Machbish, 156. Sons of the other Elim, 1,254. Sons of Harim, 320. Sons of Lod, Hadid, and Ono, 725. Sons of Yerho, 345. Sons of Senaa, 3,630. The priests, sons of Yediah, of the house of Yeshua, 973. Sons of Immer, 1,052. Sons of Pashur, 1,247. Sons of Harim, 1,017. The Levite sons of Yeshua and Quadmiel, of the sons of Hodaviah, 74. The singers, sons of Asaph, 128. Sons of the gatekeepers, sons of Shalom, sons of Ater, sons of Talmon, sons of Aquib, sons of Hatita, sons of Shobiah, 139 in all. The Nethinim, sons of Ziha, sons of Asupha, sons of Tabbaoth, sons of Kurios, sons of Saiah, sons of Padan, sons of Labana, sons of Hagabah, sons of Aquib, sons of Hagab, sons of Shemlai, sons of Hanan, sons of Gidel, sons of Garar, sons of Reaiah, sons of Retzin, sons of Nekoda, sons of Yazim, sons of Uzzah, sons of Paseah, sons of Besai, sons of Asna, sons of Me'unim, sons of Zephuzim, sons of Bakwick, sons of Hakupha, sons of Harhur, sons of Batzluth, sons of Mekhidah, sons of Harsha, sons of Barkos, sons of Sisera, sons of Timah, sons of Netzayab, sons of Hatipha, sons of Shalomo's servants, sons of Sotai, sons of Sopharith, sons of Peruda, sons of Ja'ala, sons of Darkon, sons of Gadel, sons of Shephatiah, son of Hatil, sons of Pokereth, of Zebaim, sons of Amai. All the Nethinim and the children of Shalomo's servants were 392. And these were those who came up from Tel Malah, Tel Harsha, Hurab, Adan, Immer, but they were unable to show their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Yisrael. Sons of Deliah, sons of Tobiah, sons of Nekoda, 652. And the sons of the priests, sons of Abiah, sons of Watts, sons of Barzillai, who took a wife of the daughters of Barzillai and the Gileadite, and was called by their name. These sought their register among those who were counted by genealogy, but they were not found, so they were barred from the priesthood as defiled. And the governor said to them that they should not eat of the most set-apart gifts until there stood up a priest with the Urim and the Thummim. The entire assembly was 42,360. Besides their male and female servants, these were 7,337. They also had 200 men and women singers. Their horses were 736, their mules 245, their camels 435, donkeys 6,720, and some of the heads of the fathers' houses, when they came to the house of Yahuwah, which is in Jerusalem, offered voluntarily for the house of Yahuwah to establish it in its place. They gave, according to their ability, to the treasury for the work 61,000 gold drachmas and 5,000 manas of silver and 100 priestly garments. And the priests and the Levites and some of the people and the singers and the gatekeepers and the Nethinim dwelt in their cities, and all Yisrael in their cities. 3. Now when the 7th month came, and the children of Yisrael were in the cities, the people gathered as one man to Jerusalem. And Yeshua, son of Yotzadak, and his brothers, the priests, and Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and his brothers, arose and built the altar of the Elohim of Yisrael to offer burnt offerings on it, as it is written in the Torah of Moshe, the name of Elohim, Yahuwah. So they set the altar on its stands, being afraid of the peoples of the lands, and they offered burnt offerings on it to Yahuwah, both the morning and evening burnt offerings. And they performed the festival of booths, as it is written, in the daily burnt offerings by number, according to the right ruling for each day. And afterward, the continued burnt offering, and those for new moons, and for all the appointed times of Yahuwah that were set apart, also for everyone who volunteered a voluntary offering to Yahuwah. For the first day of the 7th month, they began to offer burnt offerings to Yahuwah, but the fountain of the hekel of Yahuwah had not been laid. And they gave silver to the stone masons and the carpenters, the food and the drink, and oil to the people of Zidon and Zoar to bring cedar logs from Lebanon to the sea of Japho, according to the permission which they had from Koresh, sovereign of Persia. And in the 2nd month of the 2nd year of their coming to the house of Elohim, to Jerusalem, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Yeshua, son of Yotzadak, and the rest of their brothers and priests had the Levites, and all those who had come out of the captivity to Jerusalem began, and they appointed the Levites from 20 years old and above to oversee the work of the house of Yahuwah. And Yeshua stood up, his sons and his brothers, Kadmiel and his sons, the sons of Jehudah, together to oversee those working on the house of Elohim, the sons of Henadad, with their sons and their brothers, the Levites. And when the builders laid the foundation of the hekel, the temple of Yahuwah, they appointed the priests in their robes with trumpets, and the Levites, the sons of Asaph, with cymbals to praise Yahuwah after the order of David, sovereign of Yisrael. And they responded by praising and giving thanks to Yahuwah, for he is told, for his likeness towards Yisrael is forever. And all the people shouted with a great shout when they praised Yahuwah, because the foundation of the house of Yahuwah was laid. And many of the priests and Levites and heads of the fathers' houses, the old men who had seen the first house, wept with a loud voice when the foundation of this house was laid before their eyes, and many shouted aloud for joy. And the people could not distinguish the noise of the shout of joy from the noise of the weeping of the people. The people shouted with a loud shout, and the sound was heard far away. Chapter 4. And when the adversaries of Yehudah and Benjamin heard that the sons of the exile were building the hekel of Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael, they came to Zerubbabel and the heads of the fathers' houses, and said to them, let us build with you, for we seek your Elohim as you do, and we have slaughtered him since the days of Esarhaddon, sovereign of Ashur, who brought us here. But Zerubbabel and Yeshua and the rest of the heads of the father's house of Yisrael said to them, it is not for you and for us to build a house for our Elohim, but we alone build to Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael, as sovereign Koresh, the sovereign of Persia, has commanded us. And it came to be that the people of the land were weakening the hands of the people of Yehudah and troubling them in their building, and hiring counselors against them to thwart their plans all the days of Koresh, sovereign of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, sovereign of Persia. And in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, they wrote an accusation against the inhabitants of Yehudah and Jerusalem. And in the days of Artashshasta, Bishlam, Mithridath, Tabeel, and the rest of their companions wrote to Artashshasta, sovereign of Persia, and the letter was written in Aramaic and translated from Aramaic. Rebum, the governor, and Shimshai, the scribe, wrote a letter against Jerusalem to sovereign Artashshasta, thus, Rehum, the governor, and Shimshai, the scribe, and the rest of their companions, the judges and the emissaries, the consuls, the officials, the people of Erech, and of Babel, and the Shushan, the Hivites, the Elamites, and the rest of the nations whom the great and noble Osnapper took into exile and settled in the cities of Shamaron and the rest beyond the river. And now, this is a copy of the letter that they sent him, the sovereign Artashshasta, from your servants to the man beyond the river. And now, let it be known to the sovereign that the Yehudim who come up from you have come to us at Jerusalem and are building the rebellious and evil city, and are completing its walls and repairing the foundations. Now let it now be known to the sovereign that if this city is built and the walls completed, they're not going to pay tax, excise, or toll, and cause the revenue of the sovereign to suffer loss. Now, because we have eaten salt from the palace, it was not fitting for us to see the sovereign's shame. Therefore, we have sent and informed the sovereign, so that search be made in the book of the records of your fathers, and you find in the book of the records and know that this city is a rebellious city and causing loss to sovereigns and provinces. And revolt was stirred up in it since days of old, for which cause the city was destroyed. We informed the sovereign that if this city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, then you have no portion beyond the river. The sovereign sent a message to Rehum, governor, and Shimshai, the scribe, to the rest of their companions who dwell in Shamaron, and the rest beyond the river. Peace. And now, the letter you sent to us has been plainly read before me. And I made the decree, and the search has been made, and it was found that this city, in the days of old, was lifted up itself against sovereigns, and that rebellion and revolt have been made in it. And mighty sovereigns have been over Jerusalem, who have ruled over all beyond the river, and tax, excise, and toll were paid to them. Now make a decree to make these men cease, and that this city be not built until the command is given by me. And beware of negligence to do this. Why should damage increase to the hurt of the sovereigns? Now when the copy of the letter of sovereign Artashshasta was read before Rehum, and Shimshai, the scribe, and their companions, they went up in a hurry to Jerusalem against the Yehudim, and made them cease by night a might and power. Then the work of the house of Elah, which is at Jerusalem, ceased. And it ceased until the second year of the sovereign of Darius, sovereign of Persia. 5. When the prophets, Haggai, the prophet of Zechariah, son of Iddo, prophesied to the Yehudim who were in Yehuda and Jerusalem in the year of Allah of Yisrael's upon them, then Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Yeshua, son of Yotzdak, rose up and began to build the house of Allah, which is in Jerusalem. And the prophets of Allah were with them, helping them. At that time, Tatenai, the governor beyond the river, and Shethar-Bozenai and their companions came to them and said this to them, who has made you a decree to build this house and to complete this wall? Then we were told, and we told them that the names were of the men who were building this building. And the eye of their Allah was upon the elders of the Yehudim, so that they could not make them cease until the matter went to Darius. And then they sent back a letter concerning this. This is a copy of the letter that Tatenai, governor beyond the river, had sent. And Shethar-Bozenai and his companions, the officials beyond the river, to Darius, the sovereign. They sent a letter to whom, and this was written in it, to Darius, the sovereign, all peace. Let it be known to the sovereign that we went into the province of Yehuda, to the house of the great Allah, which is being built with heavy stones, and timber is being laid in the walls. And this work goes on speedily, and is brought in their hands. Then we asked those elders, saying this to them, who made you a decree to build this house and to complete these walls. And we also asked them their names, in order to inform you, so we could write the names of the men at their head. And this is the answer they gave us, saying, we are the servants of Allah of Shemaim and earth, and we are rebuilding the house that was built many years ago, which is a great sovereign of Yisrael built and completed. But because our fathers provoked the Allah of Shemaim, he gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, the Chaldean, and destroyed this house and exiled the people to Babel. But in the first year of Koresh, sovereign of Babel, Koresh, the sovereign, made a decree to build his house of Allah. And also the gold and silver utensils of the house of Allah, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the Hekel that was in Jerusalem and brought to the Hekel of Babel, those sovereign Koresh took from the Hekel of Babel, and they were given to one named Sheshet-Batsur, whom he had made governor, and said to him, take these utensils, go, deposit them in the Hekel in Jerusalem, and let the house of Allah be built on its place. Then the same Sheshet-Batsur came, laid the foundation of the house of Allah, which is in Jerusalem, and since that time, even until now, it has been in building and is not completed. And now, if it seems to the sovereign, let a search be made in the sovereign's treasure house, which is there in Babel, whether it is so that the decree was made by sovereign Koresh to build this house of Allah in Jerusalem, and let the sovereign send us his decision concerning this. There's a lot of names.
Yeah, wow. I didn't realize there was gonna be all these names here. Wow. Arfa, yeah. even in the Septuagint, they don't make it much easier. Oh my goodness. Apharsaphicaans? Apharsaians? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. So, let's see. I found it interesting too. Chapter 2, verse 62 mentions that the Levites that could not track their genealogies could not serve as Levites.
Yeah.
I guess Judaism, they kind of go over that verse. They kind of ignore that one. If anyone's heard of the story told by Ron Wyatt,
Yeah.
kind of interesting that this verse in Ezra talks about that, because the state of Israel tried to send so-called Levites to get the Ark of the Covenant, and then once they touched it, boom, they died.
That's right. They had to call Ron Wyatt to go down there to tie ropes to them to pull them out. Nobody else could go in there.
So wow, it's kind of crazy that they completely ignore their Tanakh here. That clearly shows that you can't just. I mean, what do they go by to establish Levites in that land? What they just go by word of mouth. Oh yeah, you're a son of Aaron. Okay, now you're a Levite. Like they don't track.
Well, you got to remember, they also claim that they can tell someone if they're a Yehudim or not. Doesn't matter if they are or not. See, they put their words over Scripture anyway.
Yeah. I found it interesting too. The Septuagint was a little bit more specific in chapter 2 about who the temple singers are. Like in your Masoretic, it will just say the temple singers. The Septuagint says the sons of Asaph.
That's what mine says.
So it's being a little bit more specific who lineage-wise were the templars in the Levitical priesthood. So they were direct descendants of Asaph, who was, a son of wasn't he David's son, Mom?
I think so.
Yeah, it goes way back to Judah. So yeah, very interesting.
A quick question. Did you say Ron Wyatt went in and pulled these men out?
Yeah, he had to use a rope. He had to use a rope to pull the dead bodies out, because these
Wow.
so-called Levites.
Is he a Levite?
No.
Okay, he just was it
he's not
his
a
guy?
Levite.
As far as we know.
He's not a Levite. His claim was that Yahuwah appeared to him and, had two cherubim appear to him in a dream and pretty much told him where the Ark of the Covenant was. And he didn't go to touch the Ark of the Covenant. He pretty much used a rope to pull these dead bodies out of there that tried to touch the Ark.
He did take pictures of it, though. The Melachim told him to take pictures. Yeah. They were the ones that actually slid the lid off so he could take pictures of what was inside the lid.
Yeah.
And he was used to, yeah.
So Ron Wyatt's story is that basically these cherubim appeared to him, and they're the ones that actually opened the ark for him to take pictures.
Yes.
So he's not touching it himself. So yeah.
Wow.
Right.
So but the reason I brought it up was so-called quote unquote Levites of Judaism, modern day Judaism, tried to touch the ark and died.
Okay, so wait 1 second. So apparently where he was at had to have been the ark, because anytime anybody got close, it had no business, would drop dead.
Yeah.
So
that's
if they touched it.
Yeah, there's some validity to his story. The fact.
Okay, so is there witnesses?
He was mainly the only witness there. I mean, probably there was witnesses of the dead bodies, maybe, but as far as seeing the Ark of the Covenant that was in the cave, no, I don't think there was any witnesses other than him that literally saw the Ark. But they did find the dead bodies. Like obviously, he pulled the dead bodies out of the cave, so there was reporters that would have witnessed it, or
here is a visual that may
people
come
from
now.
the land
Fourth
of
portal is the
Israel would have saw it.
when the sun reaches this point.
Hold on.
And something else quite interesting was the actual blood of Yahusha was on it too, and he had it analyzed.
Yeah, they analyzed it, and they were astonished. They didn't know who the person was that its blood was, because it was as far as human wise, DNA wise, they could only find female human DNA, and there was no male, and there was no male chromosomes. And they asked Ron Wyatt. They were astonished. They asked him, like, who is this person? Because Ron Wyatt didn't tell them at first whose blood he gave to them. Um, and and they were shocked. And he's like, that's the blood of your Messiah. That's the one you put to the stake. And so if his claim is true, that's proof of a virgin birth. The blood of Yahusha on the Ark of the Covenant would be proof of a virgin birth. I would love to believe it's true. I am just skeptical only because of the fact that Ron is the only really human witness of all this story. I would love to believe it's so. I mean, I still believe in a virgin birth no matter what. I don't need physical evidence, in my opinion. I don't need physical evidence. Every ancient version of the book of Isaiah clearly shows it's supposed to be a virgin birth. If not, it's not fulfilling prophecy if it's not. So for us as believers in Messiah, we trust in the scriptures should be enough. We shouldn't need physical evidence. If it is true, then Yahuwah chose a 7-day Adventist. I think he claimed to be a 7-day Adventist to show people that there's physical evidence in that blood of the virgin birth. I don't know whether it's true or not. All I know is it's an interesting story.
Chromosomal analysis is incredible.
Obviously, it's very interesting. Again, he wasn't claimed to be, he wasn't prophesying anything. He wasn't claiming to be a special person or anything. His claim is that he prayed about this for a while. He prayed to the Father for a while about what he wanted him to do, and he felt one day the Father gave him a nudge to go into a cave, and he discovered this. That's Ron Wyatt's claim. He's the same guy that claimed to find the true Mount Sinai, I think it is. That's in Arabia, that we see in scripture that's in Arabia. Paul talks about, he went to Arabia near Damascus and all that, and people have made actual connections that what Judaism tells us where Mount Sinai is not the true Mount Sinai. And the true Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia, as the New Testament hints to. And supposedly Ron Wyatt found it, if I'm not mistaken. So he's done a lot of different discoveries. It seems like the Father's led him to. But either way, it's interesting. It would make sense to me that so-called Levites of Judaism died, and that story makes sense to me. Makes perfect sense to me, because we even read in Ezra that if they can't link their genealogy, they're not qualified to be Levites. These are people that came from the captivity. These are people that were literally ethnically Levites, but since they couldn't link their genealogy to a common ancestor lawfully in Yahuwah's word, they can't be Levites, even if they are real Levites. According to Ezra 2:62 verse 62, they had to be removed from the priesthood because they couldn't trace their genealogy. So that alone makes me think that Ron Wyatt's story could be true. It's very possible. Also, chapter 2 is interesting. That a guy that had the name, the prefix of his name as Adonai, had 666 children. So I thought that was a little. Yahuwah has a sense of humor here. Adonai Kem had 666 children. So I thought that's funny. Those that don't know the background to that, why that's interesting and kind of hilarious, is that the phrase Adonai, or the name title Adonai, goes way back to the Hellenistic period um, um, in the land of Yasharal. What happened was the Greeks took over. There was a lot of Hellenistic stuff going on. Some Judeans actually started worshiping Greek deities. And you can read about this in the book of Maccabees, the partial fulfillment of the abomination of desolation with Antiochus and all that. Basically the Greeks took over the land at that point, and you got a lot of Greek thought coming in. Adonis is the Greek form of the Hebrew or Semitic term Adon or Adonai, and it actually goes back to this Greek deity Adonis. And the source for this I found, I'm going to cite my sources because I know a lot of people, this is something that you definitely want to provide sources for. This is not a conspiracy theory. There's actual proof to this. Encyclopediabritannica.com has an article about it. Etymologyonline.com, which is an online etymology dictionary. You can find it on there. Basically, Adonis Adonai was the heir apparent, Hebrew and Greek heir apparent to the Phoenician Baal. And so basically the deity Baal was also known as Adonis in the Greek, and then in the Hebrew it would have been Adon in singular form, and then Adonai, the I at the end, means my. So my Lord, my Baal. Okay, so that's how you get Adonai. And the Masoretes later on, historically, post-Babylonian captivity, eventually, by the time the Masoretic text came along, there was already this tradition that Jeremiah even talks about back in his day, that my people have forgot my name in the worship of Baal. Okay, so if you ever wonder today why Judaism today does not honor the Father's name, this is why. This tradition started way before Judaism ever existed. This is even predates the Pharisees and Sadducees way back in Jeremiah's day. Okay, so this is pre-Babylonian captivity, mind you, too. So they're already going by this tradition of possibly, even, forgetting Yahuwah's name even at this point, right before the Babylonian captivity. Who it says Jeremiah 23:27, who devise that men may forget my law by their dreams, which they have told everyone to his neighbor, meaning everyone to his brother, as their fathers forgot my name in the worship of Baal. Okay, so this is why our fellowship does not honor using Adonai as a title for the Father, or even in the singular form, Adon. This is why. Just wanted to explain that because I know there's new people, guests coming on, may not know this. Obviously, they haven't been with us long enough to know this. So I just wanted to put it out there. This is why I do not honor Adonis or Adonai. This is why. And so in the Septuagint, like I've said many times, there is no Adonai in the Septuagint. The majority of the time when it's talking about the Father, even English translators will put Lord in all caps, referencing the Tetragrammaton. So they're way back in the time of the Septuagint, 285 BC to 300 BC, 300 years before Messiah came to earth, there was no Adonai in the scriptures. That was later added on by tradition, by the scribes. Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 8, the scribes have worked the false pen. They say, why is the Torah is with us, but yet the false pen of the scribes has worked falsehood. That verse, I believe that was referring to the Masoretes. They messed around and obviously we've been ignorant of this because we don't know much about the history of where certain words come from, but I just wanted to shed light on that. That's where it comes from. And if anyone's interested, I'll give them the links to multiple witnesses of this information. Phoenicia.org has a whole article about where Adonis comes from. So anyway, so just thought I would mention that. But anyway, I found that interesting. Ezra 2:13, Adonaikim had 666 sons. Let's see here. Sons of Asaph, we already mentioned that. I thought it was really weird that there's a huge discrepancy in the genealogies. I don't know if anyone else caught this, but you have, I think it's in Ezra 2:28. There's like a huge discrepancy with the number of descendants here. Let me see. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Let me go to Ezra 2:28. Let's see here. All right, where is Ezra? Why am I always passing him on here? Oh, there we go. Yeah, my eyes are just really bad. All right, there we go. All right, let's see here. The men of Bethel and Ai, 423, Septuagint says. Masoretic says 223. So you have a difference of 200 people unaccounted for in the genealogy of the Masoretic text. I mean, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, the overall genealogies in the Masoretic Old Testament, how bad it's off. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, and why they have that agenda. Trust me, there's a reason. It has to do with erasing Messiah from the picture. I'll just give you a hint with that. So there's a reason they're doing this. There's a reason they're intentionally leaving out 200 people. And sometimes the years of people in their genealogies differ by a couple hundred years sometimes. So anyway, let's see here. Ezra 3:8. There was something about chapter 3, verse 8 I wanted to mention. Let me see here. So 3 verse 8. Okay, the Torah of Masha. In the second year of their coming to the house of Alua in Jerusalem, in the second month began Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Yehusha, the son of Jehozadak. The rest of their brothers, the priests and the Levites, all who came from the captivity to Jerusalem, they appointed Levites from 20 years old upward over the workmen in the house of Yahuwah. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention about this. The prophecy in Zechariah mentions that the branch, it calls him, Yahuwah calls him prophetically the branch, but yet Yehusha, the son of Jehozadak, is actually of a Levitical line. He's not of David's line. So why does he call him that in Zechariah 6? Yahuwah is foreshadowing his son, because his son is going to have the same name as Yehusha, son of Jehozadak. So, and most commentators understand this concept in Zechariah 6:12. He's not literally calling the son of Jehozadak the branch. It's a foreshadowing to Messiah. So I just thought I would mention that. This is the same Yehusha, son of Jehozadak, that's in Zechariah 6:12. And it says, "You shall say to him, thus says Yahuwah Almighty, behold, the man whose name is the branch, whose name is the branch." Okay. Meaning that the branch, the stem of Jesse, has that same name. So it's basically, this is where we get how we know the name of the Messiah is supposed to be Yehusha, not Emmanuel. And I know there's a doctrine like that going out there that Emmanuel is supposed to be the true name of the Messiah. No, Emmanuel is a sign. It's not literally the name of the Messiah. Okay, so Zechariah 6:12 gives us what the actual name of the Messiah is supposed to be. Yehusha. Okay, so whose name is the branch? Funny enough, Bible Hub has a commentary from the Targum of Zechariah that it says, whose name is Messiah. So it makes it more clear that the branch is referring to the coming Messiah. So anyway, I just thought that would be something interesting to bring up. So we're going to end this recording for the prophets portion. We're going to come back very shortly in the next couple of minutes. Sister Josie will be continuing our reading. She'll be doing 1 Corinthians chapters 15 to 16. So we'll be back shortly. So please stay tuned. Shalom.